Paper. It makes up our books, every page full of potential to create, educate, inspire. Paper. It's at the heart of our heritage, creating books, exams, lesson plans, sharing words and ideas with people everywhere, helping their worlds grow. These pages feed hungry minds, but paper leaves a trail, one that we need to change. Our English coursebooks now use 99% sustainably sourced paper, helping forests and the people who rely on them. We are reducing how far our learning materials travel to get to you, meaning fewer emissions from transport. More and more of what we do is becoming digital, meaning less paper and less plastic, creating less waste. And we have only just begun. We are committed to reaching carbon zero by 2048. This is our promise. This is Cambridge English, where your world grows.
Good morning and welcome everyone. We're very happy to see you here today. And I think you're going to enjoy our webinar very much today. As you know, we're going to be talking about mock practice tests. We're going to be focusing especially on speaking. And I'm very happy to introduce to you a very really experienced speaker, presenter. And Mexico loves you, Claire. So we're happy to have you back. Claire, here with us today, specializes in English language teacher development, which is something I absolutely adore, Claire, as you know. And she's had over 20 years of international experience, and she keeps on getting more and more experience all the time. She never stops. Claire collaborates with us at Cambridge University Press and Assessment, but she also collaborates with other very interesting organizations, such as UNICEF and other ministries of education all over the world. She's got a master's degree in education, and this is what informs her work in developing online courses, classroom materials, resources, etc., everything that can help enhance learning and assessment. Thank you very much, Claire. The stage is yours now.
Thank you, Rosalia. Good morning, everyone in Mexico. I am delighted to be here with you, part of your Success Academy. I love this idea, and I think you're setting up your students and yourselves for success just by being part of it. So I'm here to talk to you today about the mock test, best practice, and helping your learners get ready for the speaking exam. So, sorry, I said the wrong thing there. Here we go. All right, so this is what we're talking about for the next while. Please have the chat open. I'll be asking you to take part, asking for your opinions, so get ready. And here is a little outline for this next while. So, things to consider before doing a mock test with your students. How to use speaking test videos. We're going to have quite a big focus on this in the session, using them in different ways, helping your learners understand more about the exam they're preparing for, how they'll be assessed, and really importantly, helping them develop their skills and their confidence so that they will be ready for the real thing. Now, I'm happy to be part of this series of webinars, and if we look at the Cambridge exam preparation journey, let's just check where you are on this journey. So getting to about halfway through now. And as you know, each webinar is focusing on a different pack, and I'm focusing today on pack 5. And there are tons of useful resources on the Cambridge website that are very connected with what I'm talking about today. And I will be sharing QR links as we go. So here's the first one, and hopefully we will have this in the chat as well. Thank you very much, Laura. So for more information, there are lots of resources here and more links as we go through the session, but don't worry if you don't have time to click or to scan, because at the end you'll have another QR link where you can get everything all together. And I know that the team in Mexico are super helpful and also send round the useful links all together, so you will get them. All right, so mock speaking tests. I would like you to think about a situation here as if you are taking a test. I want you to think about perhaps your driving test. Imagine you're learning to drive. How would you feel if your instructor gave you a full driving test in the first month? How would you feel about that? Let me know in the chat. Would you like that? Would that help you? You've just sat behind the wheel of a car. How would you feel to do a practice test straight away? Okay, so Gab, you've put overwhelmed. I think I would too. Anyone else? How would you feel in this situation? Probably confused. Thank you, Lorraine. Yeah, I'd feel stressed too. Mary, how about the next one? Your instructor keeps giving you tests instead of lessons. You want to learn to drive, but you're just being tested all the time. How would you feel? Also overwhelmed? Yeah, probably quite frustrated. You're not learning anything, right? Just being tested. And then the third one, when you ask your instructor what the test is like, they just give you very vague answers. You never really get the information you're looking for. So again, I wonder how you'd feel there. Confused, bored, perhaps, frustrated, maybe lost. Right, so I think we can already draw some conclusions about how to help our learners in this situation. We don't want them to feel this way, right? So some things to consider about giving a mock test. I think first and foremost, see this as an opportunity. So it's an opportunity for you to help your learners to feel more confident, to help them feel how it is to do the test that they're going to do in a few months' time. And it's an opportunity for you to get some very detailed information about their progress. So it's twofold. You also need to think about when you're going to do it. You need to make sure there's enough time after doing the practice test for them to learn from the experience, right? They need to build on what they're doing well. They'll have some areas to develop and improve to get really ready and do the best they possibly can do in the real test. And even before doing the practice, the mock test, students need to be ready for this too, right? Because otherwise, as you said, you would feel confused, frustrated, overwhelmed, because even doing a mock practice test, if you don't know anything about that test, well, that's not going to build confidence, right? So we want to make sure learners are really familiar with the exam, what will happen, what kinds of tasks do they have to do, how are they being assessed? So in terms of speaking, the assessment criteria, and also they've had lots and lots of practice at different parts and different tasks, so that when they do the mock test in full, it's nothing completely new. That's what builds confidence. Now, we do need to think about the practicalities, and time is an important factor. You need to think about how much time is it going to take you, the teacher, to prepare to get the test ready, so part of your lesson planning time. You need to think about how much class time will you need to conduct this test. And in terms of speaking, time to assess and give your learners some feedback on that experience as well. And I should say now that for some teachers, it's not appropriate or possible to do a full mock speaking test with all their learners. It's just not possible. They have so many in their class and it's just not appropriate. So if that is the case for you, please don't worry. There are other ways to get your learners prepared, ready, and confident for the test without doing a full mock test. Think about the driving test again, right? You do lots of practice, you do all the maneuvers, but perhaps you don't do a full mock test, and that's okay. You can still feel confident and ready. So it's a great idea, but if it's not possible for you, don't punish yourself, don't panic. It's okay. And a couple more points on things to think about. Coming up on the next slide, I'm going to give you a link to the mock test toolkit, and on there is everything you need to do that mock test. It has a script for the speaking test as well, so you simply follow the instructions. And one last point is to make sure you take the opportunity to give your learners actionable feedback using the criteria. We'll talk more about this a bit later on, but basically feedback to help your learners learn from the experience. So you're integrating learning and assessment in your teaching. Okay, the QR code is coming up for the mock test toolkit. And again, we should have this in the chat too. These pages have everything you need to run that mock test, and you can see they answer all your questions as well, how to get ready, how to do it, and then ideas for conducting feedback as well. Okay, so let's move now to thinking about preparation for the speaking mock test. And I want to focus on speaking test videos. So a question for you. These are available on the Cambridge website. They're available on YouTube. Have you used these speaking test videos before? Give me a yes or a no in the chat. And if you have used them, for what reasons? How have you used them? So these are videos of candidates doing the Cambridge speaking exam. They're available at all levels with real candidates, real examiners. Have you used them? Salah has. Okay, can you tell us how you used them? Who else? Josephina has. Wonderful. How have you used the videos so far? Mario, you use them often. That's wonderful. Share your ideas. I'd love to hear how you're using them. What are you doing with them? Anyone else? So as you're thinking and maybe sharing what you're doing, thank you, Josephina. Yes, it takes a little time, doesn't it, to type out what you do. Showing the students how to answer. Wonderful. The do's and don'ts, exactly that. Thank you for that example. So there are many reasons why we might want to use these in class. And thank you, Geb, for adding that. So playing the examiner role with your students, wonderful. It's a very good example to show students. Thank you. So check out the chat while people continue to say what they're using the videos for. So Monica, practicing listening, thank you. And I'm going to give you 7 more reasons, if you're not convinced by your colleagues, on why we should be using this video in class with our students. So number 1, if your students yet still have questions at this stage about the speaking exam, now is the time to demystify, to get rid of all those questions. They can see the exam for themselves and not panic about what it might be like. They will see real candidates, they will see real examiners and real tasks. And there's nothing like information for getting rid of fear, right? Fear of the unknown. There are examples of, as I said, all the different exams, but also different levels within that exam. If you've taken a look at the videos, there's more than one video for each exam, so you can see candidates at different levels. Now that's very interesting, particularly for us as teachers, to see candidate performance, but that can be useful for candidates too. And importantly, your learners can see how it is to do the exam in a pair or a group of three. Now, I know sometimes candidates are worried, what if I'm the one who's in a group of three? Does that mean I have to fight for my time, or I don't have as much time as if there's only two of us? And of course not. In a group of three, the speaking test time is slightly extended, and your learners can see that for themselves on the videos. The videos show a realistic speaking model, so they're seeing children at their level doing the exam, and I think that's really, really important. It's reassuring that they can see children doing tasks and speaking in a way that should be similar to them. Very powerful. Monica mentioned developing listening skills, really important, and important not only for the listening test that they'll do, but important in speaking as well as interaction, because they have to listen to the examiner, they have to listen to the other candidate as well, don't they? And then finally, as we've said, it's a wonderful model for the mock test. So what I'm suggesting today is using video as a preparation, getting your learners ready for the full mock test if you choose to do that. So let's have a look at a few activities, and as we go through these, I'd love to hear in the chat if you've done something similar or you have another idea of how you might use the video. I'm going to take sections of videos at different levels. I think that's the best way to use them. Rather than showing the whole test at once, is to focus on different parts and really look at what happens and then use that to develop listening skills or speaking skills too. Okay, so here's the first one. We're going to watch the first part of an A2 Key for Schools speaking test, the very start of the exam. So your classroom task, what you would ask your learners to do, could be to ask them what do they know about what happens at the beginning of the exam. Share their knowledge. And we've got a picture of the three candidates they're going to see. How old do you think they are? So maybe in the chat you could take a guess. Look at the three candidates on the screen. How old do you think they are? Oh, so thank you, Lorraine. One guess already. So 13, 14, 15, difficult to say. Do you think they're all the same age? 12 to 15. All right. Well, let's watch and check. Are you ready?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I have your mark sheets, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm Sarah, and this is Catherine.
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Umay.
And what's your name?
My name is Noah.
And what's your name?
My name is Luca.
How old are you, Humay?
I am 12 years old.
And where do you live?
I live in Blagnac.
And Noah, how old are you?
I'm 16 years old.
And where do you live?
I live in Oslo.
And Luca, how old are you?
I'm 15 years old.
And where do you live?
I live in Canada.
All right, so were you right? Did you hear their ages? How old are they? Were they all the same age? Almost right, okay. All right, so here you would check your answers with your students, elicit their ideas. So I'm going to put those on the screen. And then we have an opportunity to talk with your students about the very beginning of the exam. So is this what you expected? Did you think there could be 3 of you? Did you notice there were 2 examiners in the room? And also to talk about what happens next in the exam. So in this way, you are helping learners with their listening skills and familiarizing them with the exam as well. Okay, Rebecca said you just guessed. We're all guessing, and that's it. It's a prediction exercise. Okay, as is our next listening task. So we're going to look this time at a different part of a speaking test. You are going to hear a candidate talking about this picture. So before we listen, take a look at the picture, and in the chat, I'd like you to think of any words or phrases you think you might hear. So what do you think the candidate might say when she's talking about this picture? So your ideas, please, in the chat. So this is a good way to brainstorm vocabulary, to get learners ready to listen, looking at topic vocabulary, and at the same time, it's a task from the speaking exam. Okay, so lots of ideas coming up here. So the point here is that you are asking learners to create their own listening tasks. So they might talk together about the words and phrases, write them down, and then as they listen, they are listening out for those words and phrases. And if they hear them, they can tick them off. Okay, are you ready? So you'll have to mentally tick it off as we watch a candidate talking about this picture. Does she mention any of your words and phrases?
Now I'd like each of you to talk on your own about something. I'm going to give each of you a photograph and I'd like you to talk about it. Laura, here is your photograph. It shows someone learning how to do something. Claudia, you just listen.
Okay.
Laura, please tell us what you can see in the photograph.
In this photograph, I can see 2 girls are cooking. They are on the kitchen of a house, and they are looking for a photography in the table, in the tablet, and they are doing things with an egg and with flour, and
talk about the people.
One of the girls is wearing a t-shirt and blue jeans, and the other is wearing a dress.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, did you hear any of your words? So I'm looking at the words in the chat. Definitely, I heard her say cooking. I wonder if you heard any of your other words. Rebecca said, yes, Josephine, you didn't. But never mind, it doesn't matter. You made a good prediction of words that might be there. Okay, and hopefully now you're seeing, if you haven't looked at these videos before, as a teacher, you're seeing how useful this could be to you for demystifying these parts of the speaking exam. So what happens next here? Well, we've got the checking of the vocabulary, but then more importantly, I think we've got learning about this part of the exam. So how long did she speak for? what did the other girl do while she was speaking? And what did the examiner do? So it's a great chance to talk about the procedure of this part. So this was the extended turn from part 2 of the B1 preliminary exam. And as Gab says in the chat, this part of the exam, it has a question that needs to be answered, and that's talking about the picture. Describe what you can see in the picture. Okay, well done everyone. Hope you enjoyed those listening tasks. Let's look now at another way to use these videos. So as a teacher, we need to understand how our learners are going to be assessed, right? It's important so that we can give learners useful and actionable feedback on their speaking, but it's useful for learners too. So what do learners need to understand about the success criteria? Well, they need to be aware of the assessment scales, and I've listed the different aspects that are considered in speaking exams there. I'm sure you're familiar with these. So they know how they're being assessed, they're aware of the different aspects of speaking, and it can also be useful for learners to recognise performance at the level that the exam that they're going to be taking. That's why it's great to see real candidates taking the exam. So along with these speaking test videos, you've also got examiner comments, which give a detailed breakdown of how the candidates do. So there's a commentary on the test itself, and also you can see what scores the candidates get. Very, very interesting, super useful for us as teachers. And can we do a classroom activity on this? Well, here's an example. So after watching part of a video, maybe with one of the listening tasks we just looked at, you could ask your learners to evaluate the candidate. So you might keep this very general. So say, did they do well? Is it a yes from you? Do you think they got a 3 in the exam? Did they reach the level? Maybe you ask them to rate them out of 5. They could hold up their fingers, they could write it on paper or on mini whiteboards if you have that. And then ask them why they think that. And here's when you can start to feed in a bit of information about how the exam is assessed. And they will probably be thinking about things like grammar and vocabulary, but then it's important for you to be talking to them as well about the other criteria, pronunciation and interactive communication, for example. And then you can tell them what the candidates got and perhaps give them a little information from the examiner comments as well. So this can be a really interesting way for learners to learn more about how they're being assessed. So a couple more links to help you at this stage. First of all, on the left, really useful document explaining the Cambridge Assessment Scale and helping you to convert the scores that you would get from a mock test to Cambridge English Scale scores. And then the guide on the right is brand new and super, super useful. This is all about integrating learning and assessment, and there are sections there on giving feedback on speaking and sharing success criteria as well. So I really recommend that brand new guide, super, super useful. All right, I'm moving on now. The links are also in the chat. Thank you, Laura. So we've looked at using the video to develop listening skills, learning about the procedure of the exam, and also helping your learners to understand how they're being assessed. Let's look now at how to use the videos to help them develop their speaking skills. So we're going to look at different exam level this time. And the first activity is expanding on candidate responses. So we're going to watch part of an A2 Key for Schools exam. I want you to watch the question, listen to what the candidate says, and think about how you could keep going, make the response longer. Okay, let's go.
Now, let's talk about music. Jensen, how often do you listen to music?
Once a week.
Okay, so Jensen answered the question. Well done. How could he expand his answer? So the question was, how often do you listen to music? And he said, once a week. Great. Can we help him to say more? What else could he say, do you think? Ideas in the chat. How do you get your learners to give slightly longer answers? Okay, lovely, thank you. That's a great example. What kind of music does he like? Use examples. Okay, thank you, Gab. And Rebecca has the same idea. Using complete sentences, that's another way, isn't it? So I listen to music about once a week. Okay, lots and lots of ideas coming through. Wonderful. So talking about when he listens to music, his favorite song, band, or singer. Very nice. Okay, so hopefully, because this is a classroom task, your learners can come up with some suggestions too. And then again, if they don't, you're ready with some support. So simple ways to make a short answer longer is to give a reason, right? Is to say why. So once a week because, or as you said, give an example, give more information, a feeling, and perhaps a consequence. That's another way. There we go. Okay, and more ideas in the chat. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I thought it'd be useful here to look at what the examiner says about this. So this is from the examiner comments and said, Wensley's answers are very quick. They are relevant, but they're short. So the consequence of that is, yes, they're short and very correct. There are fewer errors, but it's more difficult for the examiner to see the student's grammatical knowledge, and it's more difficult to judge pronunciation over very short utterances. This is so useful for us, isn't it? And it's even more reason to be encouraging learners and giving them simple strategies of how to say a little bit more. So perhaps after you've done this activity, you could move on to another task. This time, you divide your learners into pairs. You would play just the examiner question and then pause the video, and the students would give their response to their partner. Nice. So let's try this. We can't do it by speaking, but you can put your response in the chat. So listen carefully to the examiner question, and then you can type your response in the chat. And guess what? I'm looking for a slightly longer answer than Wensley gave to his question. Okay, are you ready? Let's go.
What is your favorite instrument?
Okay, did you hear? I'm going to play it once more.
What is your favorite instrument?
Okay, I'm ready for your answers in the chat. What's your favorite instrument? Okay, now we've got some ideas coming through. All right, and I'm happy that some of the answers are more than a very short response. Thank you. So we have here, my favorite instrument is the piano, or the violin is my favorite instrument. I love playing the guitar. I love guitar. And we've got people giving reasons. Excellent. These are really nice examples. There we go. Okay, great. So there's one more way. And that's a nice example from Carla as well, and perhaps a good one to give is, I don't play any instruments, but my favorite is the guitar because I like the sound. Wonderful. Okay, let's continue. What's next? I think these speaking videos are a really nice way to help learners to focus on the procedure of the exams, and it's often one of the things they're afraid of, isn't it? What if the examiner is horrible and mean? And it's helping to get rid of those fears. So here's an activity to use the video to help learners to really notice what the examiner does and why they do it. So here are some true or false statements to get your learners to think about before watching a section of a video. So you can think about these now as well. I'm sure you know the answers. Take a look. Do you think these are true or false? And the way I see this being done in class is some pair work or group work where learners can talk together, come up and discuss and decide on an answer. There's more speaking involved there. And then watch the video, check their answers, and then we go through the answers together. Wow, Lorraine has written all of her answers in the chat. That is impressive. Thank you very much. Okay, all right. So as you're thinking about those 4 things, I'm going to play 2 clips from speaking videos, so you'll see different speaking examiners, and just think about these things as you are watching.
Laura, tell us about a teacher you like.
Of my school, for example, I like my language teacher because she is so funny. She always tell us about his life, and I like.
And Claudia, how often do you use a mobile phone?
Do you think eating in restaurants is expensive?
It depends on the restaurant.
Why?
Because the restaurant is very expensive and the restaurant is cheaper.
And Noah?
All right. Wow, I was just seeing as the video is playing, there's so many answers coming in the chat. Okay, so 2 different examiners. Let's check. So will the examiner chat with you and talk a lot? No, they won't, right? So important for learners to know this. And that's not the examiner being unfriendly. It's how the examiner does their job. They want you to speak, so they will just be asking questions and speaking very little. Number 2, the examiner might ask why to help you speak more. So I'm looking back at all of your answers here. Most people here said true. It's true. So that's important too. And learners need to know, don't they, that's not a problem. That's just the examiner helping them to say a little bit more. What about number 3? The examiner will tell you if you are doing well. So no, they won't. And it's important for candidates to know that and not to be expecting it, because really they get very little feedback on their performance during the exam. They won't know. So it's important that they know that, so they're not worried or disappointed when they don't get this. And number 4, the examiner will nod and smile. Do you think the examiners in the video did this? I think they did. So that's really important as well, isn't it? And to know that that is pretty much the response that they will get from the examiners, because that's what they're allowed to do. And why is that? That's because they want the learners to speak as much as possible. So, why is this helpful for learners to really look at the examiner? I think it's important that the learners know examiners give a very limited response. I think it's important as well to notice, especially in that second clip, the examiner often switches topics without any kind of linking. So it's important, learners need to know that will happen. They need to be listening very carefully, because the next question might be for them, right? And then finally, the last one, we mentioned this, is if the examiner wants to hear more, then they may ask a follow-up question, or simply why. Okay, so what can we do after this? Well, I think it's time that we did some speaking, right? So why not here do a role play with the learners? So they've seen now the model. Now they can role play together, one of the learners being the examiner. And you must ask them to act like an examiner and make sure they smile and they nod, but they don't say very much. They just ask the question and then listen and maybe answer why. So that's super speaking practice on an exam task, and also it's realistic practice in terms of being with an examiner. Okay, and I've just noticed this from Gab. In your C2 exam, they didn't show any facial expressions. And well, you know, you will often get a neutral face, but hopefully friendly. But you're right, there's not an indication really of how well you're doing. Okay, so I have shown you videos so far from A2 Key and B1 preliminary, and I wanted to remind you there are videos for all levels as well. And I just want to say a little bit about the younger learners and our primary learners who might be getting ready for these exams. There are videos of these too. So you may wish to use these again as a teacher, either to familiarize yourself, or you may wish to use this in class. What I like about these is that they show the pictures that the children are looking at as they are doing the exam tasks. So it's nice to focus on that with learners and highlight those and do a vocabulary or speaking activity using the same pictures. And I tried to get screen grabs here of different levels, from the pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, A2 flyers, and with the examiners looking friendly and nice, because they are. And I think that is the difference with these exams, is that the examiners are allowed to say things like good or very good, whereas for A2 Key for schools and above, they're not allowed to say that. So I think it's important for learners to know, the younger learners, they do get some encouragement. All right, and as time allows, I thought we would finish with some speaking activities that you could use in any lesson. So we've looked at, first of all, using the mock test as some very focused practice. We've looked at different ways of using the speaking exam videos to help learners understand, develop listening, develop speaking, and practice those skills. But also, we need to be doing lots of speaking regularly in every lesson, right? So that our learners are always practicing and developing these skills. So I've taken a few activities using images here from the pre-A1 starters, A1 movers and A2 flyers exams. So I thought we'd look at a few activities for our primary learners. And as we're going through, if you've got other ideas and you do different things with pictures, please let me know in the chat. I'd love to share and we can all learn from each other. So first of all, flashcards. So I'd love to hear how you use flashcards with your learners to do speaking and vocabulary activities. I've got a few ideas, of course. How about laying out some flashcards on the table and asking learners to find something that is green and get them to hold up a flashcard and say what it is that's green. Or find something that has 4 legs and get them to find a picture, hold it up, and maybe count the legs and say the name of the animal. Really fun. How about describe and draw activities? So you could give your learners different flashcards of vocabulary they've been studying. They're not allowed to show their cards, but they describe it to their partner, who then draws it and then compares to the picture itself. Now, depending on the level, this could be very simple. They could just say what the animal is and maybe the colour. Or if learners have a bit more vocabulary, they could add in a bit more detail. So we've got the butterfly with blue wings, a green body, and a white edge on the wings. And that's quite nice for listening practice as well for these exams, isn't it? Where they need to recognise and identify colours in pictures. I can see your ideas coming in already. Thank you, Lorraine. So guessing games, I like that one. Putting the cards into different categories. I wonder what the categories would be. Really nice. And TPR activities, so getting them to move or perhaps point or hold things up. Lovely. Sally uses flashcards for revising vocabulary. Very nice. Checking spelling and prompting memory. And Gab, you use it for tic-tac-toeing. So the game, do you put them on the board, I wonder? And if they guess the flashcard correctly, they get to put an X or an O, trying to get 3 in a row. Is that how it works? Okay, I've got you. Love that idea. Really nice. Keep them coming. Maybe you use memory games. And again, make sure you are in all of these encouraging speaking, not just looking at the flashcards. So it could be matching, or it could be showing the flashcards and then covering them and seeing how many words children can remember. They can do this in groups. It's a bit more speaking too. And then another one which is really related to the exam is choosing the odd one out. So, and it's great fun doing this with learners. I think they're so creative and they often find something completely unusual that you've never thought of. So you might choose 3 animals, 4 animals and get them to decide which one is different. And there's no wrong answers here, right? There's no right or wrong answers as long as your learners can justify it. And that's where we get a little bit more speaking. And Myra, we have hangman. Lovely suggestion. It is a good one as well. Yeah, good for revising and checking spelling. Okay, let's move to another type of picture. So this is linked to the A1 Movers exam, where they have to find differences between the pictures, right? Anybody preparing learners for this exam? So how can we use these pictures? Well, maybe you show the picture, get learners again talking about what they can see. You could do this in pairs or groups once you've started them off. It could be pointing to something in the picture, counting things in the picture, saying where things are, what colour they are, how many. And then maybe you can show the other similar picture very quickly and see if learners noticed any differences. Did you notice any differences? If you did, put them in the chat. What was different? Yes, I was very quick there. Did you notice anything different? Well done, Gab. The boat, absolutely. Oh, and the sun, how many? I think there are 5. So you can show that again, give them a bit more time, and then perhaps get them to look at the 2 pictures finally together to find all those 5 differences. It took me a little while to find the 5th earlier on. Okay. Moving on, and then the final point on pictures, you also have these wonderful poster packs that you can find on the Cambridge website. Here's one from the pre-A1 starters level. And there's so many things we can do with these pictures because they're full of vocabulary relevant to the topics of that level. How would you use this picture for a speaking activity? Can you think of one? So many creative ideas from before. What would you do with this picture of the cafe, I wonder? How would you get your learners talking? Ideas in the chat, please. I think I'm going to think of one. No, I'm not. I'm waiting for yours. Wonderful. Describing people, activities. Thank you, Sella. Food. What are they doing? Nice for ing. Thank you, Lorraine. Hello, Ava. Thank you. Vocabulary, description. So again, what are they doing? Very nice. I think maybe I would play I Spy. Do you know this one? I spy with my little eye. Something beginning with B. And then they have to shout out all the things beginning with B that they can see until they get to the one that you're thinking of. They can play that in pairs too. All right, and we've got prepositions, adjectives, comparing 2 people. Very nice, Mary. Yep. Aline, you're thinking of I Spy like me. Very good. Okay, so many ways to use this for speaking, right? So if you haven't seen these images or activities before, or you want to know where do I get the posters from, well, here's where you get them. So if you scan this code or click on the link, go to the exam that you're preparing learners for and go to Teacher Essentials. You'll find all of these. So in the handbook for these exams, you will find examples of all the speaking activities, the spot the differences, the odd one out, and so on. And also you have flashcards and you have the posters for the levels as well. So really nice, free, colourful activities for you to download. All right, gosh, okay. I think, Rosalia, shall I sum up and we can move to questions? Because I got a bit excited there and carried away. Yes. So I'm going to move
Thank you
swiftly
very
on.
much. Thank you very much. Yes, we'd like to see more questions. And it's so important, Claire, I love the way you said it. This is like Mythbusters, right? And about speaking exams, because for candidates, it's like they know probably that they go into a room, right? And then the door is closed and something happens, right? And then the center makes sure that candidates who have finished the exam, as you know, do not talk to candidates that are waiting to take the exam, the speaking exam. So it's like mystery, mystery, mystery. So it's very good. And assessment criteria, it's so important for everyone to understand the assessment criteria, because I usually say a Cambridge exam should not be an unexpected surprise.
Right.
Our colleagues who are preparing learners to take the exams know what to expect. Well, these candidates should also know what to expect, what happens So this really is very important. So more questions, please. We've still got Claire for a couple of minutes here. And I loved it that this webinar had so much really active engagement. The people participating and giving you examples and saying things. I love it when they talk about what instrument they would like to learn to play, or which one they actually play, etc. It's great when participants are active like that, isn't it?
Absolutely, and everyone's thinking, how do I use these flashcards? How do I use the pictures? And really, it's only limited by your imagination. I think there's so many ways to use them.
Well, we have a question from Lorraine, and it's an easy one. If you remember all the timings for the different exams, it's about Lorraine. You're asking us about the speaking exams for flyers and movers and how long they are. I always say to people, Claire, I don't know about you, I say, I know about all of them, but when I present about a specific one, then I don't really want to mention the other ones because I don't want to confuse people by giving them the wrong answer. But we can let different exams and the different lengths. Do you remember by any chance?
I can't remember exactly, but I know they're about 5 or 6 minutes for the young learner exams. Yeah.
But there's something interesting about the difference that maybe we can talk a little bit about, Claire. The difference between how many examiners when it's a young learner's exam, and how many examiners. You've shown those examples, because here for the exam preparation journey, we're focusing on levels from A2 all the way to B2 in this case for the Success Academy. But that's a very good question, I think, for our audience today. So what's the difference in terms of how many examiners?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also why they think that difference exists.
Yeah, that's a good question too. So in the videos that you've seen today, A2 key, B1 preliminary, there were 2 examiners in the room. One of them, the interlocutor, is the one asking questions, and the other one is sitting quietly in the corner, and they are both assessing the candidates. Now, why are there 2 examiners? Well, there are 2 or 3 candidates in those exams at the same time, and there's a lot involved in those exams, isn't there, for the examiner to do. They have a lot of questions, they've got things to hand out. It's difficult for one examiner to do all that, ask the questions, and then assess 2 or 3 people. They just can't. So that's why there are 2. For the pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers, there is 1 examiner and 1 candidate. So it's much easier for the examiner to ask, and the questions are very simple at that level too, because they're just assessing that 1 child. So,
and that reminds me, I think maybe we should do a session about all these questions that sometimes our colleagues, teachers preparing candidates for the exams have, right? Why is this like this, etc.? Like we're usually asked, but does the assessor talk to the interlocutor? And you say no, they should not. Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much. We have a question about materials. Believe you me when I tell you, for everybody preparing learners to take a Cambridge English exam, there are lots of materials. You have the link to the exam preparation journey, where you can find all the different materials for all the different exams there. And we'll be very happy to keep on sharing this information. But now this is a very interesting part here in Mexico, Claire. I don't think you see these in other places like that with 2 different QR codes. Usually you only get to see one, but Mexico is different, right? You see, Mexico is Mexico. So you know who you are. And remember, we're grateful for your presence, each and every one of you. You know who you are. you know which QR code to use. So thank you very much. Anything else, Claire, you'd like to add?
I don't think so. Just to say thank you, everyone, for being so active and have fun with your students. Like, we've looked at some quite focused tasks, but make sure you're still doing all the fun stuff as well, because all speaking in the end is really important and useful. So the exam practice, that's important, but the fun things are important too. And hopefully today we saw some that were exam practice and fun as well. So keep enjoying yourself.
Thank you very much. Remember, we've been recording all the Success Academy webinars, so you can go back and watch again. And thank you for coming. We hope to see you in the next one. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye-bye.